Hey everyone, this is Dhruvin and I welcome you all to the third episode of my new segment called Talk with Devs. This is the segment where we are going to talk about different Microsoft and Power Platform related things with our industry experts. In today's session, we are going to talk about one of the interesting concept of Power Apps. We will be talking about Power Apps components in detail. So most of the time when we are getting started with Power Apps component, we have lots of question in our mind that what is Power Apps component, how to use that, and when we can use and leverage the capability of component into our app. So you will get all your answers throughout this entire session. So stay tuned with us till the end. And to present this thing, we have our industry expert Deepak with us to present this session with us. So first of all, I welcome Deepak to my channel. So hi Deepak, how are you?
Hey Dhruvin, thank you for having me on this session, and hello everyone. As Dhruvin said, I'm Deepak Shrivastava, and glad to be here. And I will try to give you guys much more information around PowerApps component, how you can use it, and where you should be using it. So stay tuned with this.
Yep, yep. And Deepak, thank you so much for your most valuable time, to present this session with us. So definitely our audience will get lots more context related this particular Power Apps components. So guys, before we get started, let me just give you a little bit intro about Deepak. So Deepak is Microsoft MVP. He is active speaker and YouTuber as well. He is Power Automate community super user as well as the user group leader for Houston Power Platform user group. So you can follow Deepak on his different social media handles like Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. The links are available on your screen as well as in the description box. So stay tuned on his all his social media platform. And before we move forward, let me open up Deepak's channel on my screen here. So here you can see the Deepak's YouTube channel where he is uploading different content related Power Apps, Power Automate, SharePoint, and much more. So you can subscribe his channel and always stay tuned with his channel. So whenever he will upload any new content on his channel, you will have that. And apart from that, this is the LinkedIn URL for Deepak's profile. So you can connect him on his LinkedIn as well. And throughout this entire session, if you guys have any question, feel free to add your question during the comment section, as well as you can directly connect Deepak on his LinkedIn account. So I think I covered almost everything. And guys, don't forget to subscribe so you will never miss any updates from his amazing content on Power Apps, Power Automate, and another Power Platform thing and SharePoint related stuff. So now I would like to welcome Deepak again on this show. And now the stage is yours, Deepak. You can go ahead and share everything, share your expertise about Power Apps component with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. It's quite a nice
Okay.
intro. Okay.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. Before we start, let's understand what is PowerApps component is all about. And even before, what is component? So if you guys are working on SharePoint, Power Platform, or any other technology, we write a lot of code or we create really cool features and functionality. Think about recreating that all the time. So let's say I created one app, and in that app, I'm creating maybe left navigation. And I created a really nice left navigation with a lot of great functionality. Now, let's say I completed my project and I move on to the next project, and I had a requirement to creating a similar left navigation. Now, isn't it good if I can just use what I have done previously in my previous project? And that's where the component came into the picture. So if I can take my left nav that I created in my previous project and create a reusable functionality out of that and use it in my future app. And also I can share it with all of my different colleagues who are working on the similar requirement. So I just need to spend my time creating that reusable functionality one time, and I'm reusing it all the time. And this happened a lot of time in Power App, and not even in Power App, in SharePoint, and any other technology that we do. So that is called the component. It is kind of a pre-built set of functionality that you can use. Okay, so this was just a basic introduction of the component. Now, where you can start and how you can start working on component in PowerApp. So to start with, very similar, we need to go to our make.powerapps.com. This is where we start creating our apps. And if you go to the apps, you will see all those different apps that you or your colleagues are creating. But next to this, there is something called component library. Now, component library is nothing but a library where you can create multiple components altogether. So this is the recommended way to start creating the component. Now, you can also create component in other ways. So for example, if you create a new app, so I click on create new app, canvas app from the blank, I'll just give a name. Okay, so my app is getting created. So my app is created. The question is not about the app, but once you have your app created, in all the app, you will see a second tab after the screen. It's called components. So you can also start creating the components here. Now, what is the difference between this component and the component gallery? When you create a component in your app, that means you are creating this component for this app. So if your colleague or if you wanted to use this component in the future in the other app, you need to export it and then import it in that app. Instead, if you create your component in the component library, that is available for any app that you will create under this environment. So you don't need to worry about exporting and importing. And there are some other benefits also working on the component library that include when you publish all the different app maker who have used your app, they will get a notification that this particular component has the latest version. So all of these cool features comes with component library. One more thing, if you look at the documentation from the Microsoft, we can add the link in this video. Means it's stated there that this component section may be deprecated in the future. So the most recommended or most right way to start creating component in the component library. Okay, so let's before we create the component, let me give you a use case how useful a component can be. Okay, so this is the app that I have just created, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to rename this screen to home, and I will add multiple screens in this app. Okay, now let's say we wanted to create a header in this app. Maybe this app I'm working on and I want every screen to have a header. Generally what we do, we go to the insert, we will drop a rectangle. This is just a typical the way of we create a header, and I will just put this on top of my screen. Maybe I'll insert some icon, right? And then maybe a label that can tell me the name of this screen. Right now, if you notice, I created this header, but this is only on my first screen. Now let's say I want to create the same header to the second screen. Either I need to do everything what we did, or I need to select all these different controls that I have added as a header, copy it, and then paste into my second screen, and then change the name of this screen to screen 2 because this is a different screen, right? Similarly, if I need to move this to a third screen, I need to copy and paste, change the name to screen 3. Now, because right now we have just 3 screens and our header has only 3 control in it. So it looks very simple. Think about if you have multi-screen app, or maybe a different app where you need to introduce this header, and maybe this is what we are talking about, the header, but what you need to copy has more control or more complex functionality. The more you're gonna use it in the different app and the different screen, the complexity is going to increase. So that's the one challenge that we have if we don't use component. Second, let's say I want to make a change to this component or this header, and the requirement had changed, and now the business is asking that why not have a picture of the logged in user here. So to do that, I'll insert a picture here. Right, and I'll set it to user. Yes, in PowerApp, you get this user object that will give you information about the logged in user. right? So I added this picture, pretty straightforward. Now think about if I'm using the same header into multiple apps and screen. I need to go to each and every screen, each and every app, and add this image there. So it's very tedious work. Plus, it is a lot of work that we need to do. So what we can do, we can create a header using component and use that component in all of these different screens, so that in the future, if we need to make any changes or update this, it can be easily done. Okay, so let's start creating a header component that we can use in this app. Before that, let me save it. Okay, so to start with, in the component library, as I said, always start here. Click on the new component library from here. So now what the library is, library can have more than one component. So if you are creating component like header, navigation, footer, or anything that is, most of the app are going to use it. So they are highly reusable component. So you can call it a general component, right? And this is just the name. Click create. Now, what PowerApps is doing, it creating that library or the area for you to add multiple component. Now, this screen will look very much as your app editor screen. As you can see, there is a screen, there are component, but don't get confused. This is for the component library. The screen section here is just for you to test the component that you are building. Okay, so it looks similar, but it has a different concept. By default, it will start with default component here. You can rename it. So I'm going to call it header, because this is the header component. Now, how you create the component is very much how we were creating in the app. So we will still go ahead and insert a rectangle. Okay, and then I will also add an icon. I will also add a label here. Okay, so this is the header, but again, what is the difference using a component? So in component, if you click on the component, you see here saying custom properties. So the custom properties of a component is the property that you can define in your component that either user can provide information to or consume or get information from this component, right? So for an example, if you remember this app, what we were creating, we had this label here that was showing the screen name, right? So what we can do, if we can create a property in our component that can read the screen name and display here, so that will be more dynamic, right? So in the header component here, if you click on new custom property, then you will see a window open up where you can define the name of the property. So we're gonna name this property as, let's say, screen name. Okay, so you can define the name, and then there's a property type. So in component right now, you can have input and output, two property. There is one more property that has been introduced, but that is under experimental feature right now. And for that, you need to just enable the experimental feature. So we are not talking about it right away. But by default, there is input and output property. So input property, as you know, where the screen or the app that is going to use this component can provide information to. So for an example, if we are creating our header component and we are saying this is our screen name, we can set this input as an input property. So the app maker or the screen can provide the name of this header or the screen name to this component. So whenever the component will load, it will get the name of the screen from the app itself. The data type is very standard. You can define any data type that is listed here. It can be a text, number, Boolean, date of time, screen, image, color, table. So these are the different type of field that you can use in your component and collect information from the app itself. Okay, now this is the one property saying raise on reset when value change. So component has a property called on reset. So you can use this property or this check mark whenever the value of this property will change, the component will reset. Okay, it requires some time when you want to just reset the whole component. So for an example, if you're creating a reusable functionality to calculate something where you're providing different numbers and you wanted to reset everything, in this case, we don't want to make it. So we'll say create. Okay, so our screen name has been created. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this text here, the text of this label. And if I type my component name header, if I click dot, I will see that name here. So I'll say screen name, right? So what I'm saying now, I'm saying the label text for this label is going to be the property value. And if I go back to the header and from the drop down, you will see that screen name here. Right now it's default to text, but what I can do, I can say app.activeScreen. So app.activeScreen will give me the current active screen dot name, right? Right now, you're not going to see anything because it's empty, but once I add this component to a screen, it will display the name of the screen. So this is how the input property work. And again, because this is input property, once I'm going to use it in our app, user can override. Then there is one more property here that you might have been noticed, that is output property, right? We will use this output property in our second scenario. The output property is nothing but it will give you this. So it's the output from this component. So for example, if user wanted to know, or if you are adding a gallery in this component, right, and you wanted to see the currently selected item, this output property can be used for that, and we will discuss that. So for now, let's say there's a couple of property that we can set. So you see here, it's saying header. You can set the height and width if you want. So I'll say 150 or maybe 100, right? So this will be you can manage the width. Now let's save it. Okay, so component has been saved. Let me make it more smaller so it can be. Okay, perfect. Okay. And now, as you can see here, you can publish this component. Because we are using component library, we have this opportunity to publish it. But before publishing, what you can also do, you can utilize this screen, and from the custom on here, you will see your component name here, and you can test this. But now if you notice, you can see the screen 1 is automatically popping up. So that's where that input property is triggering in, and you can see it. You can go to the screen name. So right now it's showing app.activeScreen.name. What I can also do, I can overwrite this information and give my custom name to it. And that component will automatically take that input property because this is an input property. So you can set the information on the input property as you need. So right now it seems like the component is working. I can add another screen here just for testing, and I can drop the same here. And as you can see here, so this is my screen 2, this is my screen. So let's go back to the component and let's publish it and try to use in that other app that we were working on. Okay. So let's say you created this component, you publish it, and it is available. Now, how you can use that component in your app? So in your app, if you go to this add control icon, at the very end, you see here saying get more components. Once you click on that, the Power App will display you all the different components or the component libraries are available in your environment. And as you can see here, we have created this general component, as you can see, and we created the header. These are some other components that I have already created previously. So from here, as an app maker, maybe this is not the component that you created, maybe someone else was creating, but you can still get that component in your app. So what you can do, you can select one. Now for an example, if your component library have more than one component, you can choose and select. You can select one or many based on your need. So you don't need to import everything that is available in that component library. So in our case, you can select header, click import. Now, if you look under the library component, you will see your header component listed here. Okay, so let me delete this one, what we have added previously. And I click on header, I can make it full. Now, if you notice, even if I set the component width to full width, but my this rectangle is not taking the full width. And the reason behind that, if I go back to my component here, if you look at the rectangle width, it is fixed 640. So what you can do in that case, you can just set it to header, that is the name of the component, dot width, and height also we need to set to header dot height, right? And the I make this for a particular region. So let's say you added this component, but this component was not really as you want. You save your app. Now, how you can get that updated information that I just did? Number one thing, I need to publish, right? So I can save it. I can publish my component here. So now the component version that you have in your app is not the latest version, correct? So if you go here on those three dots here, and if you click on check for updates, you see here, it is giving me that this component has an updated version as compared to what you have. Now, as an app maker, I can decide whether I need to get this update or not. So this is like more controlled way of doing this reusable functionality. And it's very important because sometimes what happened, we are just talking about the header menu, but in some cases we create more complex functionality. You don't want to get the latest update from the component maker because the version that you have is working perfectly in your app and you don't want to update that. So you can ignore it, but in our case we want it. So I'm going to click on update, and as you can see here, it's changed. So now it is taking full width. Similarly, I can go to other screen now and delete whatever we have added earlier. And I'm going to insert the component on each and every screen. Right, so we have added now component header in all these three screens. Now let's talk about the same scenario that we were talking earlier. Let's say we want an user image in this one. So now, because we are using component, the change is very simple. We just need to go to our component. Again, do the same thing, insert an image and set it to the that user.image. Okay, so it's showing up. There's one more change that we can do. If you have noticed, the label was not properly aligned. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the label width also as a header width. And height as well. Now let's publish. Again, same thing, we can publish and app maker can decide whether they want this updated version or not. So go to this control insert screen, again check for update, and we're going to update this one. So again, it's showing up, but still not properly aligned. As you can see here, the image is showing up in just center. So we can go back to the component and set the X of this one is. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that whenever this component added to any screen, the image should be almost at the right corner of the component, right? So that will be the header width. So whatever the width of the header, right? So this will give me all the way to the end, but we don't want, because if you use this as an X, the image will go out of the component. So we're going to do this minus self dot width, right? So then it will just remove the width of this image and it will show you here. Now let me publish again. Now if you go back and check for update, it should align it correctly, as you can see here, right? So now I added this one. If I go to any of the screen, it has the change. So I just make changes at one place, and now all of my 3 screens are getting that updated navigation. So this will give you a quick what I call the background of how useful that can be at the scale. Because previously we were using these 3 screens, every screen has their own control, and we are going everywhere and changing. But when we switch to component, we just got everything aligned properly. Now let's go ahead and let me create one more component quickly. So this was the header, right? And let me create another one quickly. So we will be going to create a quick simple left navigation, because left navigation can be very complex as well. But let me give you the left navigation, and in that control we will learn about the output property. Okay, so I'm going to rename it, not delete, left nav. Okay, now if you know the left nav, I'm going to use a vertical gallery. We don't need this everything in this gallery. So from the layout, we can say only title, right? Let's remove this icon also, and let's make it a little bit more smaller because it's too big right now. So I'm going to say width is, let's say 150, and height we will keep it as it is. And the gallery, what we are going to do, we're going to set the item later. And for the gallery, the width, again, as you know, we're going to say whatever the width of this left nav component is. So it's left nav dot width. Okay. And then for this title width, I'm going to just say, actually we can just say parent or template width. Okay, and then we will start it from, this is just more alignment, means it's not that tricky, you can align it as needed. Okay, right, so we added this. Now let's set up the menu item, right? So for that, let's create another input property, because what we want this to be used as a component. So we want the app that is using to decide what should be the navigation menu. So you can create another input property. You can say menu item. It's input because you are asking AppMaker to provide you this information. The data type, this is where you can change. So you can select a table, because we are using gallery, right? So you need the input as a table. So you can use a table, click create. And now if you go to the menu item, by default, it will give you a sample schema for this table. In our case, to keep it very simple, I'm going to just say use the name, and we will call it menu 1, menu 2, menu 3. And we just need this one item in each, and I'm going to copy, and you can repeat the same, let's say for, and this is the sample that you are adding to your component. AppMaker can override this information because this is the input properties. Okay, and then in this gallery, what you can set the item as an, hold on, let me do it from here so it's easy to read. So if you go to the item of this gallery, your left nav dot menu item. Okay, so as you can see here, so your left nav menu item is there. Now, as I said, the concept is not the left nav. What I'm trying to explain you, the property that is the output property. So in the left nav, let's create another new property, and we're going to call it current nav menu. Okay, and this time we're going to set this as an output property. So what this property will do, it will give you the currently selected item. So if user click on menu 2, this will give you the menu 2. Now, right now we just have the name. You can have more information in this in this one item of this table. You can have the name, the URL, any information that you want. So this is the output property. It's the type record. And why it's type record? Because what we're gonna set this property to the currently selected item of this table. So you know, table is combination of multiple record. So this is the output property. Click save. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to on select. So on select of any of these item, you can do a couple of things. I'm going to start with this. You can set a variable called variable current item and set it to this item. Okay. This is pretty straightforward. When I click on that, it's going to set the current item to whatever item I'm selecting. And then if I go to the left nav, go to your output property that you just created, that is current menu, and use the variable current item. Okay, very simple, straightforward use of this. Now let's save it and we will see how this is going to reflect in our app. Now, if you notice, I have created this component under the same component library. So if I go back to my app, and click check for update, and if I click update, nothing happened. And the reason is because you already only included the header component from that component library. So if you are adding a new component to your component library, you need to again go to the get more components, go to your the component library, and then you need to select and import that newly created component. Okay, so we created left nav. I'm going to import it. So now we have the left nav, and let me add that left nav here. Okay, so this is the left nav that we have created. Now, as you notice here, it's just showing you the same menu 1, menu 2, menu 3, menu 4, menu 5. And if you go to the menu item, these are the menu. But you remember we have set it an output property. And if I go to the property here, right, it's not showing that. The reason because there's an output property. So you see all the property that you see under the property section here in the component or in the app. These are the property that you can change because you can provide the information. Because the current menu was an output property, you won't see it here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert another gallery here. And in this gallery, what we can do so is our left nav, that's the component name, dot, you will see that current menu. This was the output property, right? And because I know it has just one title, so I'm going to set this as a title, and it's the name. Now let me play this. So you see here, right? Now when I'm clicking on this menu, the component is giving me the information about currently clicked item. So this was the example of output property. Now you can use this for any other purpose. And it's also very straightforward, simple. You don't need to do much. Just go to your component library and create an output property that you want. So this was the input and output property, how you can use it. Again, this is the introductory session. So we are not going too complex. You need to start getting used to it, and then you can jump onto the more complex scenario. And before we close out in the last section of this session, I'm going to talk to you about those new feature that just has been released. Again, those are under experimental feature. So there's maybe some changes coming in the future, but I'll just show you. So if you go to your component library that I'm creating, and if you go to the file settings, and this is pretty much for any app, if you need to see any other new feature, under experimental feature here, and if I go to enhanced component properties, I'm going to set it on. Then I will go to my app, save it. Okay, now if I go to new property, and if I go to the type, you see another property called behavior. Now, if you are working on the Power App, so the behavior property is like that can be used as the change of the behavior of your control. So for example, on select, right, is a behavior property. You can use that property, what will happen when someone select it, or on change. So for example, if you have a drop down and if you're saying on change of the value, what you need to do. So this is so you can now create your own behavior property. By default, if you look any component, we only have one property that is on reset. This is the only behavior property that comes with the component. But what with this new property, you can define your own user defined behavior property, right? So that's the one change. You can also define the parameters now. So what is parameter? You can define a parameter that user can provide when they are selecting this property or using it. So for an example, if I'm adding a text box, I can ask user to give me that information. The reason I'm not going too deep in this one, because this is very experimental. So we need to just a little bit wait on this one until it's get more use or more, I would say, more settled down. And what you can do, what you can achieve with these new property, you can actually create reusable functions that is called component function. So for an example, let me show you here. So you can create a behavior property. You can set the parameter, like an input parameter, for example, number 1 or number 2, and you can create your own function that will give you the sum of these two functions. So again, this is more extension that you can do with the component, but I'll highly recommend, if you are not using the component, start with creating this usual functionality, start getting used to input and output property, and then you can jump on to the more advanced property like the behavior and even creating some user defined functions. Yeah, so I think that's all covered our introductory part of this component. Again, as Dhruvin was saying, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment here, ask Dhruvin or ask me. You know our contact, you have all the detail. Dhruvin is very active, so if you are not getting answer from me, you can definitely get it from Dhruvin, or he can get it from me. So yeah, keep learning, and I hope this will help you your journey that you are going to start with a component. Dhruvin, any other thought?
Yep. So thanks a lot, Deepak, for this wonderful session. So as a beginner, anyone who wanted to start with component, it's very helpful and handful session. Like we covered everything, like how to get started by creating the normal header component to left navigation, and as well as we talked about the newly experimental feature as well. So I think we are good, and this session will definitely help everyone who are creating the component for the first time. And with this, you can create much more complex component as well for your app in your organization. So I think at this moment, Deepak, I do not have any question, but while we are premiering this, and if anyone has any question, I'll notify you. And even if I know the answer, I will let the subscribers and everyone know about that. So yep. So thanks a lot for this wonderful session and sharing your expertise with us with this particular component thing. It really helpful for everyone who is watching this session. So now,
And before you go, I have last thing to say.
yep,
So
sure.
this is definitely going to help you to start. And if you want to see some more advanced component, you can always, as Dhruvin was saying, I have some component that was more advanced, like chart component and some other component. So they are there. Even if you go, they are there on my YouTube channel. Also, if you want to download those component, they are available in my GitHub. I think we have not. I'll share my GitHub also, Dhruvin, so you can add that as well.
Definitely.
So if you want to download and play around with those components, I think you guys might have already seen when I was here. Let me go back here and where I was. So you might have seen all of these components. Most of them are available in the communities. You can download, use however you want. And so yeah, go ahead and try it. I find it very useful. Again, this component feature is in preview right now, but still it's very useful. Go ahead and give a try. Be ready at least once it's going to go live, because it's going to be very useful. And the only reason I'm saying it's going to be very useful from the background. So if your background is actually the development, and if you did the development in your previous, or you're doing development right now, you know how useful that these can be And if I can relate this to .NET, how useful a class library can be. So
Exactly.
think from that point of view, you will understand the power of these components. So yeah, good luck.
Yep, exactly. And yes, Deepak, as you mentioned, the GitHub repository and about the advanced complex components. So definitely people can check out Deepak's channel. So I just shared my screen. So once again, search for Deepak Shrivastava on the YouTube, or the link is also available in the description box. Go to the video section, and here so many videos are available. You can go with and check out the latest and some complex component as well over here. So I recommend everyone to subscribe his channel and also check all of this amazing content that he is providing on his channel, as well as the link for the GitHub repository is also down below in the description box. You can download it and share your review with us as well. And in future as well, if you want that, you wanted to have some more session from Deepak and me, feel free to add your feedback as well. We would happy to uh, consider your feedback and have a more session in future as well. All right. So Deepak, anything else that you wanted to share with our subscribers, user audience?
No, I think thank you for watching, everyone. I'm still new. Dhruvin is anyway doing this since a long time. So I kudos to Dhruvin doing such a great content. I'm following you. So yeah, I mean you guys are still already following Dhruvin, so I don't need to say the follow Dhruvin. But Dhruvin is doing really, you are doing really great job. Creating this much content, I know it's take a lot of time and effort. So good luck and thanks for watching, everyone. Keep learning and keep providing your feedback, because your feedback is something that we can take and build something that is more useful. Rather, we are just building what we think is useful, and that's the
Yes.
key.
Yes, exactly. So share your opinion in the comment section so we will get more idea that what type of content you are requesting for us. So stay tuned with us, and meantime let me move forward with the ending procedure over here. So if you are for the first time to my channel and watching this video, make sure you hit subscribe and press the bell notification to never miss any updates from my channel. I am uploading daily content on Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Teams and SharePoint on my channel. So make sure that you never miss any updates from my channel. Apart from that, if you are looking to follow me on all my social media handles, here is the link. Just click on that. It will redirecting you to this Linktree link where you can follow me on my YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, blog, Twitter, Facebook and GitHub repository as well. Also, if you are looking for any Instagram content, here is the separate channel for Instagram. You can just follow me on my Power Platform guide where you can find different posts, reels and IGTV content on Instagram. And if you are looking for any audiogram or any audio podcast, here is the link. You simply click on that and it will redirecting you to this audio podcast channel. So here you can listen different audio podcast on your favorite podcast platform like Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and much more. So this is Dhruvin signing off. See you in the next session with some amazing content. So till then, stay connected with me. Have a great day. Goodbye.